Friday, April 12th, 1912. This was Titanic's first full day on the North Atlantic. Having left Southampton and having arrived in Cherbourg, France behind schedule on Wednesday evening, the ship had dashed up to Queenstown, her last port of call before starting across the Atlantic to New York. Only now, with the ports of call and cross-channel passengers having come and gone, and with 5 full days ahead before reaching New York, could the frenetic activity of Wednesday and Thursday begin to settle into some semblance of routine. Titanic's maiden voyage was getting underway in earnest, and the days ahead promised to be splendid ones. The weather on the morning of Friday, April 12th, was spectacular. By noon, the temperatures had risen to nearly 60 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 15 degrees Celsius. Titanic was sailing into a 15-knot headwind, and the sea was a bit choppier than the previous day. At noon, the ship's position was checked, and her run since departing Queenstown the previous day was calculated. She had steamed 484 nautical miles since leaving Daunt's Rock at an average speed of 20.98 knots. Not bad for a 21-knot ship sailing on only 20 of her 29 boilers. Throughout the day, ship's time was set to 3 hours and 36 minutes ahead of time in New York and 1 hour and 24 minutes behind time in London. Passengers were becoming more and more acclimated to their surroundings, more confident as they tried to find their way around the mammoth steamship. There were still issues apparent with the ship's heating system, but many passengers compensated for this by turning on the electric heaters in their staterooms. In second class, one humorous situation arose when a female passenger went to wash and started to fill one of the lavatory basins. However, she couldn't figure out how to turn the water off. A stewardess was called for, but she couldn't figure out how to make it stop running either. Finally, after much confusion, a ship's plumber was sent for, and he was not only able to turn the water off, but he was also able to instruct everyone on the mysteries of that patent faucet. Second-class passenger Lawrence Beasley was impressed with Titanic's size and amenities. One thing that he realized was a much-needed provision was the elevator, or lift, provided for second-class passengers. He recalled that without it, some of the older ladies traveling in second-class cabins down on F-deck might never have made it topside during the entire voyage. Beasley also remembered the young lift attendant, who loved the sea and wished he could play some of the deck games being played outside. Beasley joked that he would take charge of his lift for an hour or so, and that he could go out and play, but the lad smiled, shook his head, and took off to answer a call from a passenger on another deck somewhere below. Up to then, Titanic had been steaming on power from 20 of her 29 boilers, but another boiler was fired that very morning. Throughout the day, it would be warmed up and brought up to pressure before the steam from that boiler could eventually be applied to the engines. Sadly, because of the choppy seas, second-class passenger Kate Buss was noticing that, in spite of Titanic's splendid behavior at sea, there were a number of people around her who were seasick. In spite of this, she enjoyed the daily performances by the ship's 5-man ensemble, and even talked with cellist John Woodward, whom she remembered always smiled at the passengers. During the Thursday performance by the musicians in second class, between 10 and 11 a.m., second-class passenger Juliette LaRoche had noticed that the quintet had been performing as a quartet: 1 violin, 2 cellos, and a piano. One is forced to wonder if one of the musicians had been feeling unwell, perhaps with a touch of seasickness that morning. If so, had he returned to work by Friday? In the busy Marconi office on the boat deck, at 5:46 p.m. ship's time, the French liner La Touraine sent a wireless message to Titanic. It was an official message, marked with the prefix MSG, meant to share information with masters of surrounding vessels with important navigational matters. The message read, "To Captain Titanic, my position 7 p.m. GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, latitude 49.28, longitude 26.28 west. Dense fog this night. Crossed thick ice field, latitude 44.58, longitude 50.40. Paris saw another ice field and 2 large icebergs, latitude 45.20, longitude 45.09. Paris saw a derelict, latitude 40.56, longitude 68.38. Paris, please give me your position. Best regards, and bon voyage, Captain Cosson." The reference to seeing ice was not unusual for an April crossing, and the message overall was congratulatory in its tone. Captain Smith's response was transmitted at 6:21 p.m. MSG. To Captain La Touraine. Thanks for your message and information. My position 7 p.m. GMT, latitude 49.45, longitude 23.38 west, Greenwich. Had fine weather. Compliments, Smith. Just before Captain Smith's response was sent at 6 p.m., there had been a muster by the emergency lifeboats beside the bridge. A muster like this was held every evening at the same time. An officer, a quartermaster, and 6 seamen gathered, keeping in practice so that in the event of an emergency, such as a man overboard, they could lower away quickly. That same day, First Officer Murdoch had posted a list of lifeboat assignments for the crew, which was posted throughout crew spaces around the ship. Belfast resident and first-class stewardess Mary Sloane encountered Thomas Andrews by the grand staircase as Andrews and Dr. O'Loughlin were headed down to dinner. Andrews stopped to talk with her, and she noticed that he seemed a bit out of sorts and a bit homesick. As the two talked, Dr. O'Loughlin was calling out to Andrews, calling him Tommy and urging him not to dilly-dally. Captain Smith and J. Bruce Ismay dined together in the a la carte restaurant on B deck. After dinner, Captain Smith left to check in with his officers on the bridge. Meanwhile, Ismay invited their dining companions back to his parlor suite to play a game of bridge. Eventually, the evening wound down to its inevitable conclusion, and passengers began to retire for the night. The 21st boiler, fired earlier that day, was brought online overnight. At about midnight, the ship's clocks were set back by 49 minutes. First-class passenger Lucy, Lady Duff Gordon, remembered that everything aboard this lovely ship reassured me, from the captain, with his kindly bearded face and genial manner, and his 25 years of experience as a White Star commander, to my merry Irish stewardess, with her soft brogue and tales of the timid ladies she attended during hundreds of Atlantic crossings. Yet for some reason, she found herself unable to shake the uneasy feelings about this crossing that she'd had even before boarding Titanic. Because of that, she chose not to undress at night when she turned in. She also kept a warm coat and wrap, as well as a little jewel case with a few of her most treasured possessions in it, handy beside her bed as Titanic steamed through an overcast night. A special thank you to our supporters on Patreon: NikkiChan92, Evan Plemming, Lucas Sidlowski, Bluebird Nut, Mark Gegenheimer, Martin Cahill, Maximilian Metcalf, Rachel Warner Sanchez, and Snow Monkey.